So the question would be, why are you miserable? We have a number one answer. Go ahead. Somebody say, why are we miserable? Because we're not acting like who we are. Again, we get focused on here, don't we? So we say we feel miserable because we're not reflecting who God made me to be. Well, I think, yeah, that's appropriate. But maybe I'd like to challenge you. Maybe the reason you're miserable is because you're holy. See, if you weren't holy, you wouldn't be miserable. Does that make sense? Now, where this applied is a young mother had called, and actually a pastor had called from out of town. He says, I've got this lady, and she's really struggling with her. She just had a new baby. She's really struggling. Could you talk to her for a second? And I said, that didn't mean a second, but you know. And I said, sure. So I got back on, and she's crying. She says, you know, I was diapering the baby, and I had this thought about hurting the child. Horrible thought. Hurting the child that I prayed for and wanted. And I said, okay. I said, tell me more about it. What'd you do? She said, oh, I felt horrible. I thought, how could I be such a godly mother, or not a godly, how could I think those thoughts against my child? I must be a horrible mother. And I said, okay. I said, now you've got me, you really do kind of have me confused. And she said, what's so hard about that? And I said, you told me I hate this. Who's the I? Tell me who I is. Who's this woman that hates the thought of her child being harmed? And she said, well, I guess that would be me. I said, that's right. Guess how godly moms feel when they have such thoughts towards their children. They hate them. I said, okay, you're right on target. What's your problem? He said, oh, I guess that's right, isn't it? I said, that's exactly right. You're supposed to hate those things. I told that story at a church, and this mother came up afterwards. She said, you know, that same thing happened with my daughter. She came up and said, oh, Mom, I don't know what to do because I have this, horrible thought about the child. And she just looked at her daughter and says, oh, honey, she said, I thought about killing you many times when I was So, but you see, there she could begin taking solace in the fact that God had given her a new heart, put a new spirit in her, that those things did not fit with her. And the reason she hated it, abhorred it, was so ashamed of it, guilty of it, everything else, is because he had given her a new heart, and her greatest desire was to be a godly mom and protective and loving of her child. And so that's how this new heart, this new you, can begin to respond to life around you. It's because when you come back and, when you're having a discussion with your wife or husband, and you begin looking at them from this perspective versus this perspective, does it make a difference? Because I know this is what my wife wants. Now, she doesn't always act that way. She knows that that's what I want, but I don't always act that way. But this is not who I am. This, if you really want to look at it, that's really what we're talking about, isn't it? The flesh and the spirit. That all over again. So I get to, God let me have a ministry to people to tell them what's right about it. I love that. I hate telling people what's wrong with them. I like to tell them what's right about it. And it really, really sets people free.